Hi, my name is Mehak Sota, and in this video, I'll walk you through a small prototype I built called CareOps Lite. It's an idea exploring a supervisor focused extension to the kind of operation workflows that Halo already powers. Before jumping into the demo, let me quickly set the context. Home care agencies manage dozens of caregivers, each running multiple client workflows every day. Medication routines, wound care tasks, check ins, and other daily care activities. Supervisors are um, responsible for making sure these workflows run smoothly and stepping in when something goes wrong. While Halo does a great job enabling caregivers and managing workflows, I started thinking about what an additional supervisor focused operational layer could look like. Something that helps operations lead quickly detect issues like skipped steps, workflow timeouts, or early signals of caregiver burnout. CareOps Lite is a lightweight concept exploring that idea, a focused supervisor console that surfaces operational signals through a live alert feed, workflow debugging views, and a burnout risk monitor, all driven by configurable thresholds. Now, speaking of tech stack overview, stack overview before the demo. The front end is powered by React with Vite, plain CSS, and thus no UI library has been used, so every component is custom. The backend is powered by Node with Express. Authentication is using Google Authorization 2.0 via Passport.js with session based authorization. The session cookie is scoped to the backend, passed cross origin using credentials include. Data is in memory at runtime, seeded from JSON files for caregivers and workflows. There's no database, and this is intentional for the prototype. Settings and alert overrides live in memory and reset on server restart. The interesting architectural decision is that nothing is hard coded in the API responses. All alert texts, risk scores, and workflow statuses are computed at request time from the raw data and the current threshold settings, which I'll show you live in a moment. Now, when you open up CareOps Lite, this is the landing page. This is the login page where you come to. So now, currently we have a set of authorized and unauthorized emails. So if if your login email is not under that authorized email, you would be bounced back to the login page with an error message that hey, you do not have access to this. However, if you do it with an authorized email, you will be taken to the dashboard. Now, when I do an unauthorized email access, this is what it shows me. It got me back to the login page with a message, your account is not authorized to access this supervisor console. Now, when I do with an authorized email, it brings me to the dashboard. The first thing a supervisor sees is the unified alerts dashboard. Every alert is generated fresh on each page load and not stored from the current state of the caregiver and workflow data evaluated against the active thresholds. Alerts are color coded by severity. Critical alerts have a strong left border. Each card shows the entity, either a name of the caregiver or the workflow ID. Along with that, it also has the title and a plain English description of what exactly triggered it, including the relevant threshold values. You can filter by severity, type, or status. And right now, let me just quickly filter it to just critical burnout alerts. Now, this is just critical alerts. This also includes the workflow alerts. And now we are back to all the alerts that were there. Now, looking at this alert tells me Sarah Johnson, who has worked 58 hours this week, 10 hours over the 48-hour limit, and her shortest rest gap is 5.5 hours, below the 8-hour requirement. That's two separate risk factors, both mentioned explicitly. There are actions on each card, um, which are acknowledge, snooze, or resolve. Now, when I hit snooze, it gives me, and it opens up a model and gives me an option of snoozing it for how many number of hours I want to mention. So, if I want to know, if I don't want to be alerted by this, like if I want to be alerted by this again in the next 24 hours, after 24 hours. So now this is snoozed. Now, if I've already talked to David Lee about his burnout risk factor, I'm gonna say, okay, resolved. Now, it's something that, okay, I have seen this, but I'm not resolving it yet. It's on my to-do list. So I've acknowledged it. And once I've already talked to Michael Torres, I can resolve it. Now, moving on to the workflow debugger. Now here, let me, okay, the workflows tab shows all active workflow instances as cards. Broken workflows have a highlighted border. The summary card shows the workflow name, client, issue count, and the reason it was flagged. It also, like on this dashboard, it also shows me like a high level overview. Like, okay, there are three broken workflows and there is one healthy workflow, and then there is a clear distinction. Now let me open up the workflow 1024, which is Maria Santos workflow. Now, what was the problem here? What was the alert reason? The step medication confirmation timed out after 47 minutes. The threshold is 30 minutes. So it's flagged. The alert reason at the top is generated dynamically. It reads the event data and builds a human readable sentence. If I change timeout threshold to 60 minutes, this step would clear automatically because 47 is under 60. Um, and the steps here on the right could be skipped, out of order, um, skipped, completed, timeout, out of order, or pending. Each status that has distinct badge color, and skipped and out of order are always flagged regardless of the threshold. Now, going back to the main page where we have all the workflows, I want to double down on 1022 um, workflow, which is led by Linda Chen. Now, here the medication dispatch. So the medication verification step was skipped entirely. The workflow was marked complete without it. This is always critical. There's no threshold that can change that. Now moving on to burnout risk monitor. Now here, the burnout risk monitor allows all caregivers ranked by risk score. The score is computed at request time from from three factors: weekly hours against the threshold, minimum rest gap, and consecutive long shifts. Each row has an inline progress bar showing the score color coded by risk level using an accessible amber and teal palette rather than pure red and green. Now I'll expand Sarah Johnson's card. This shows her recent shift history, dates, times, hours worked, which client. You can see four consecutive 11 to 12-hour shifts, which is driving the high score. high score. The risk factors are generated dynamically. They don't say exceeds threshold generically. They say exactly how many hours over, exactly how many hours below the rest gap requirement. If the threshold changes, these message update immediately. Now, I keep on talking about thresholds and thresholds that can be changed, thresholds that we're looking at. And I just keep on saying, okay, yes, you can change it and things will appear dynamically on the dashboard. Where are we changing the threshold? Threshold that comes under the settings tab. Now, currently, the weekly hour threshold is set to 48. Minimum rest cap is set to 8. Workflow step timeout is to 30, and consecutive long shifts threshold is 3. Now, this is where it gets interesting. If I change the caregiver weekly hours threshold to 60, and let's say if I change the workflow step timeout from again 30 to 60, and I save this. Let me see how it shows up on workflows and burnout risk dashboard and then me on the main alerts dashboard. Now, let's check the workflows. Now, Maria Santos was flagged before, but now she's no longer flagged. Even though it was a 47-minute delay, but it's over since it's below threshold. Now, let's check burnout risk. Now here, as you can see, the 58 out of 60 hours is no longer a flag, but her minimum rest cap is a flag. Consecutive shift is something that could be contributing to it, but not as much as the 5.5 hour hours, which is making which is creating it as a high risk. Same for Michael Torres. So now let me edit this a bit. Let me change this to, let's say, 3. And let me see. Okay. So now Sarah Johnson's and Michael Torres risk factor has reduced to medium. Even though this is a high factor, but overall, it's the score itself has reduced. Now, when we go on workflows, yes, we already looked at workflows. Now let's look at the um the main unified alerts dashboard. We just have one critical alert, which is from the workflow. Others are warning. Now moving on to the accessibility part of this application. One, there is a dark and light mode feature activated. The second part is that I have tried my best to make it WCAG accessibility compliant. For example, no pure red green combinations are visible on this. We have amber, teal, and softer coral colors, which provide the same meaning but are not as harsh. I've also made this responsive. So, a few things before I end this presentation. Um, these are the following things that I would like to include in future scope. That is, the things I would build next in a production version. One, having real-time alerts via WebSockets. Because right now it's pulling on page load. A WebSocket connection would push critical alerts as they happen. Second thing I would want to include is email and Slack delivery. Alert notifications sent directly to the on-call supervisor without requiring them to have the dashboard open all the time. Third will be the database. Right now we have just to have it as a prototype, we have temporary files on the back end which contain the data about the caregivers, workflows, etc. So now I would want to move this to a persistent storage that is in a database, which would replace in memory state with a database like PostgreSQL. So alert acknowledgements and settings survive these starts. The next part I would look at is role-based access control. The next part I would look at is role-based access control. The groundwork is already in the server with admin versus supervisor roles, but the UI does not differentiate yet. Then the last part would be data imports. CSV or JSON data ingestion, letting agencies upload their own caregiver and workflow data rather than using the seeded JSON files. Finally, that's CareOps Lite, a focused supervisor console built to make operational monitoring for care teams actually actionable, not just informational. The core idea is that thresholds should drive everything: alert risks, alert text, risk scores, um, workflow statuses, computed fresh every time. So a supervisor configuration changes are reflected immediately across the whole app. Thank you for watching. The code is on GitHub and the link is in the description. Thank you so much.